the rest of us had provoked the police simply by refusing to be arrested, refusing to be stopped. And so when it finally did slew into another vehicle and come to a halt, every officer in the field, it seemed to me, came crowding in on it. And they were like kind of flies around rotten meat. And there was no question of trying to make a lawful arrest or anything else. They just crawled all over that vehicle with truncheons flailing, hitting anybody they could reach. It was extremely violent and very sickening. And it was at that point that my photographer, who was trying to take pictures of it, got arrested. And I myself got threatened and told to leave.
When that boat is stopped, make sure the driver is well identified.
National international news. Get on.
Someone help me! Help me! See what they're doing to us!
What we, the ITN camera crew and myself as a reporter have seen in the last 30 minutes here on this field has been some of the most brutal police treatment of people that I've witnessed in my entire career as a journalist. There must be an inquiry. I don't know what the results will be of it, but at this stage, the number of people who've been hit by policemen, who've been clubbed whilst holding babies in their arms and in coaches around this field is still to be counted. What the end result will be, we don't know, but there must surely be an inquiry after what's happened here today.
When I got back to ITN during the following week, and I went to the library to look at all of the rushes, most of what I thought we'd shot was no longer there. And from what I've seen of what ITN has provided since then, it disappeared. And particularly some of the nastier shots that were taken of the battle in the Beanfield of the woman being dragged out by her hair, whom I know was filmed.
It turns out now, I didn't realise it at the time, but I was in fact the last person to be processed in Amesbury Police Station that night, and was the last one down as having been through. But in fact, being one of the first that was arrested at 7 o'clock meant that we were among the people that spent the most time in the garages round the back. And it was indeed a long time. We were there from probably 8 o'clock in the evening till well into 2 or 3 o'clock the following morning. So we were in the garages 6 or 7 hours, which is quite a long time to be kept standing waiting in the freezing cold. And that is the point at which we were strip searched too, so it was a most uncomfortable time really.
Some of the violence I saw, it was quite, I just don't know how to describe it, horrific, that a policeman should be doing this. And we're taught to, as fairly young children, to trust policemen. You don't expect them to go battering you. You don't expect them to batter children, but they were that day. And I want to show the whole world that policemen do that sort of thing occasionally, and then maybe people will believe it and try and stop it. It's only by the will of the general public that things like that can be stopped. And they don't just do it to us, they do it to lots of small groups. You know, anybody who's in a minority is going to get trashed one way or another, and this is wrong.
You know, all this damage, and I mean, about the only thing that works
It's the windscreen wipers. I haven't got a windscreen anymore. Oh, this is ridiculous.
The mass media is a joke, generally, and particularly where the travellers are concerned. There's two factors that work. One is that individually, reporters are scared of the convoy. They're afraid they're going to get mashed up or raped if they go close to them. So you've got ignorance. And the second thing is that on the face of it, the convoy looked like a good story, you see. What makes them a good story is that they fit a kind of cliche from Hollywood. They're crazed hippies. And if you put the ignorance and the cliche together, you stick with the cliche, you see, because you don't go close enough to them to discover they're not crazed hippies. But it makes good copy. And on the particular occasion of the battle in the Beanfield, so-called, most of the press succumbed to police knocking around. The police told them to stay down the bottom of the hill, out of the field, and the reporters agreed, which was crazy. The police had no legal right to keep the reporters out of the field, but they allowed themselves to be herded like sheep away from the field so that they didn't see what went on. So then when the police came down the hill afterwards and gave them a lot of complete guff that fitted into the cliche image of the crazed hippies, they bought it. And it's actually, in a way, you look at them and they're just a joke, but it becomes a pretty dangerous joke when prospective jurors and voters and people who should be angry about what happened get fed this kind of nonsense.
We took an important stand on the very first or the second day of the case, when the press started calling this the hippie trial, and that Lord Gifford was representing 24 hippies. And I just put my foot down and said this word is a racist word. It is a word which is derogatory. It is not accurate. And I don't think it should be used in this case. And I think the jury then began, and everyone else began to see these people as individuals who had individual integrity, individual ideas about their lives and their children, and they began to see the justice of their case and the injustice of the way they'd been treated.
If I could say that the Beanfield and what happened to me that day was the worst day of my life, and I can't ever foresee having anything happen to me that could be worse than what happened to us there that day, then I can say that that day that I had in the witness box must be my best day of my life as a contrast, because it was such a good feeling to be able to stand up in public and say, no, this is how it happened, this is what happened to me, I'm telling the truth. And that did make me feel good.
Well, inconsistencies were two a penny. I mean, there were more than 100 police witnesses, and wherever more than one policeman saw the same event, the descriptions were completely different. And to some extent you expect that. And the things which surprised me were not so much the inconsistencies as the omissions and how critical some of them turned out to be. For instance, on the police video, which turned out to be quite important, there is a piece missing. Nobody knows how large a piece. You know, estimates vary from a few seconds to more than a minute, where the tape, we're told, accidentally broke. But that is at the crucial point where the convoy is stopped. In the police radio log, which we were provided with, there are breaks. There are breaks of a couple of minutes where the tape was changed.